Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to part 2 of our look at the great career of Teemu Selanne. If you haven't seen part 1, the link is in the description as well as the upper right corner. Check it out right now. But to cut you out quickly, Teemu Selanne, after success in Finland, 4 years after being drafted by the Winnipeg Jets, joined them at last in the 1992-93 season despite almost losing him to Calgary. He took the NHL by storm in his rookie year. His now infamous 76 goals, 56 assists for 132 points was nothing short of incredible, smashing the rookie goal-scoring record of 53 previously held by Mike Bossy and the rookie point-scoring record of 109 held by Peter Stastny. Also setting an NHL record for the first rookie to lead the league in goal-scoring and sharing a record with Alexander McGillney for the record of most goals scored by a European player, and as of 2025, none of those records have been broken. He also set the Jets franchise record for goals and points in a season, and also led the league in even strength goals and was top 10 in 6 overall categories, a first-team All-Star and of course a Calder Trophy winner for Rookie of the Year. But also Selanne had a profound impact on the fans and community of Winnipeg. He was not only just seen as their top forward, he had become an instant idol. He had quickly made Winnipeg his home, along with his partner Sirpa. It was the perfect place to build a family, he felt. Merchandise with his likeness was selling like hotcakes, and he had quickly become involved in many charities in the community, both with the Jets organization and outside of it as well. But when you have a season like he's had, well, you face a lot of pressure. And unless your name is Gretzky or Lemieux, chances are it's going to be extra tough to follow through. But be that as it may, he's up to the task. But in the offseason, the Jets were dealt a bit of a blow. Just a couple weeks before the season was set to begin, they traded star defenseman Phil Housley to the St. Louis Blues for forward Nelson Emerson and defenseman Stefan Quintal. While Emerson would prove to be a good forward, it wasn't exactly a stellar trade. And yet another brilliant move by Mike Smith, the other being trading a guy named Chris Draper for $1. Tkachuk and Zhamnov are still at the club, however, but Housley was key in Selanne's big season. Either way, the 1993-94 season saw some changes in the NHL, expanding from 24 to 26 teams, with the addition of the Florida Panthers and the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. There's a new playoff format as well as the 1 to 8 seed, now in the renamed Eastern Conference and Western Conference. And the Jets, of course, are part of the latter. They are now in the Central Division, however, along with the Leafs, Red Wings, Stars, Blackhawks, and Blues, all new division rivals. Now our hero's sophomore NHL season is set to get underway. And it kicks off on October 6, 1993, when the Winnipeg Jets hosted the Washington Capitals. Winnipeg Arena and its fans are excited for a big season, and Selanne gets a rousing ovation upon introduction. The Caps are coming off a winning season, but are without Captain Dale Hunter, who is serving a record-long suspension for his nasty hit on Pierre Turgeon the night they were eliminated from the playoffs. But they still have Michel Pavanka, Peter Bondra, and two-way specialist Dave Poulin, as well as all-star defensemen Al Iafrate and Kevin Hatcher, and in net veteran goaltender Don Beaupre. It's game time as the 1993-94 season is officially underway. It's a tight, intense game to begin with. Emerson put the Jets on the board to score his first goal as a Jet to begin the game, and about 3 minutes later, Steen gets the puck out to Bunton, who sends Selanne in on goal. He scores his first goal of the year already, and it's 12:02 into the game. The Jets take a 2-0 lead. They, however, let a 3-0 lead slip, and by early in the third, the Caps led 4-3. But 1:43 later, Jets on a power play. Emerson over to Steen. Selanne's open. He has the puck. He scores his second goal of the game, and that ties it for the Jets. Brasado gets a shorthanded goal that gives the Jets the eventual lead. And then 1:17 after that, Zhamnov controls the play. He gets it over to Selanne, and he scores! A hat trick to open the season. The Hats flood the ice as the Jets fans hail their hero once again, basically continuing where he left off, it seemed, and begin the season in epic fashion. He gives his boys a 6-4 lead. Talk about starting the season off right. The 6th hat trick of his career and named first star of the game. Winnipeg's new hero is taken off in flight once again. Then it was a 3-game road trip, first starting in Dallas with the Dallas Stars, formerly of Minnesota, still led by the likes of Mike Modano and Neil Broughton. The Jets fought to a 3-3 tie, Selanne assisted on a Zhamnov goal. He had another assist in a 4-3 overtime loss to Chicago. But in a tough 7-4 loss to Scott Stevens and the Devils, he went pointless and shotless. The Jets returned home and then got back at Roenick and company with a 1-0 win, overtime that is. Selanne was on ice for Emerson's winner over the Blackhawks and was a +1. They then triumphed over the lowly Oilers in Edmonton 6-3. Our hero had 2 helpers. But they were crushed by Stevie Y, Sergei Fedorov, Paul Coffey, and the powerful Detroit Red Wings 6-2. Selanne did have a goal. On October 23rd, the Jets paid a visit to the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, as they took on the Flyers, who were off to a really good 6-1-0 start, led by sophomore sensation Eric Lindros and superstar winger Mark Recchi, as well as other great forwards Rod Brindamore and Michael Renberg. Well, it's game time at the Fame Spectrum, and just 1:39 in, Nuinen begins a play that leads to Selanne. He's coming out goal with Zhanov. He gets it for him center. He scores! Selanne making a great setup. Wow. And the Jets lead 1-0. But just under 3 minutes later, Zhanov up to Steen. He makes a play for, you guessed it, Teemu Selanne. The Jets lead 2-0, 5 minutes into the game. And our hero already has 2 points. Emerson would add a shorthanded goal to give the Jets a 3-0 lead, but the Flyers got 2 back, and the Jets lead 3-2 after 1 period. But as the second period progressed, the Flyers took a 5-4 lead, but then the Jets had a power play chance, and it started with Stu Barnes, continuing to Selanne, who puts it on goal for Kate Tkachuk, who powers his way to the net. He scores, and our hero has his 3rd point of the game. The Jets tied at 5-5, and that's how it stayed after 2 periods of hockey. Less than a minute into the third, Tkachuk's 2nd goal of the game gave the Jets the lead, but 20 seconds later, Nuinen, still controlling the pace from his own zone, gets to the Zhanov, and he's got Selanne on his wing. He gives it to him, and Teemu scores his 2nd goal of the game and 4th point. Our hero having another epic night. The Jets lead 7-5. And the Jets then led 8-6 as time went on, and then the awesome Euro line strikes. Teemu to Alexei to Thomas. Oh yeah, he scores. Jets lead 9-6. What a night for Teemu Selanne. 5 points. The Jets won the game 9-6. Selanne was actually named 2nd star, as Keith Tkachuk did have a hat trick, and above Zhamnov, who also had a 5-point night. A big emphatic win for the Jets. Then Winnipeg took a trip to Florida to first take on the expansion Panthers, and Selanne had an assist as well as an empty net goal, giving him 2 points and 10 points. 10 points total in 4 games. Against Tampa, he went pointless, but the Jets did win 4-3, and they've now won 3 straight. He finished the month with an assist and overtime loss to the Kings and a goal and a loss to Calgary. The Jets are a decent 6-5-1, while our hero in 12 games, 8 goals, 9 assists, 17 points, and a +1 to begin the year. He looks sharp as a Ginsu to kick off the season. In November, he still averaged a point a game, but wasn't quite as dominant. He scored 4 goals, 10 assists for 14 points in 14 games. To begin the month, it was a shutout loss to the Blues, but then he bounced back with 3 assists and a 7-6 loss to Ottawa in 1993. In overtime, no less, they blew a 6-3 lead. Either way, another great game for number 13. Well, he went pointless in the next couple games, but then had a lone goal and a loss to Mark Messier, Brian Leetch, and the powerful Rangers. Then after a rough couple of games, which brought them to a 3-game losing streak, on November 17th against the Wings, deadlocked 1-1 early in the third. Teemu Selanne gets a loose puck. Big mistake, Wings. He goes in alone on goal, and rookie Chris Osgood probably looked like a deer in headlights. Can't stop it. And he gets a beautiful solo effort, and that's the game winner as the Jets take it 2-1. Then after being crushed by McGillney and the Sabres 6-0, he had a goal in a 5-5 tie with a disappointing Nordiques team. He then had 2 helpers against the Canucks in a 5-3 loss. And the Jets are winless in 4. However, against Hull, Shanny, Cujo, and the awesome Blues, our hero came up big with a goal and a helper in a 4-3 win. Then in a crazy battle with Gretzky and the struggling Kings, who were actually the defending conference champs, our hero had 3 assists and an 8-6 win. In 3 games, 7 points for our hero. After a loss to the expansion Muddy Ducks of Anaheim on the road, our hero went on a nice little 5-game point streak. He had a goal and a helper in a 3-3 tie with the Sharks. In 19... never mind. The Sharks at this point are actually 1 win shy of tying their wins from last year already. Okay. Well, he was named 3rd star, easy for me to say on this one. They managed to beat the Wings again, 6-4. A goal and a helper once again, but the Wings dished it right back to the Jets, 6-2. Selanne had an assist. He then assisted on a Zhamnov goal 30 seconds into a 5-4 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are red hot at this point. He did have a goal, but overall didn't play well in a 5-2 loss to John Van Beeswick. Scott Melleby, a decent-looking expansion Florida Panthers club at home. Selanne was pointless in a 3-3 tie with Toronto at home and was a brutal -3 in a 6-1 loss to the Canucks. He had a goal in a 5-4 loss to Calgary to follow, but then had a goal and an assist in a 7-5 loss to the Ducks. Selanne is playing well. It's clear the Jets are missing Phil Housley, and they've also traded Freddie Olsen pretty much for a bag of pucks. Mike Smith is killing this club as they sit at a measly 12-19-5 record. On December 23rd, 1993, it was a Festivus battle with the Nordiques, who, as I mentioned, were off to a pretty disappointing start. The Jets are hoping to get on a rebound as well. Anyway, it's game time. Just 1:34 in on the power play. The Olympic line is out there. Zhamnov to Tkachuk to Teemu. Selanne scores early on and gives the Jets much-needed momentum early in this one. The game was tied 1-1 early in the second period. The Olympic line out there again. Zhamnov to Tkachuk to Teemu. His second goal of the game, giving the Jets a 2-1 lead. Quebec tied it not long after, but Selanne feeds the puck to minor league call-up Oleg Milkolchik, who gets up to set up Zhamnov for a goal. Selanne gets his third point of the night, giving the Jets a 3-2 lead, and then power play. Zhamnov to Mironov to Teemu Selanne, his 20th goal of the year, another hat trick. His second one this year, the 7th of his young career. It gives the Jets a 4-2 lead. The Jets are going to win 5-2. A big night for our hero. 3 goals, a helper for 4 points, and of course was named for a star of the game. As he had fans off their feet all night, as once again the ice was littered with hats, and despite the Jets' current woes, he's still holding things together as best he can. After this game against the Jets, however, they took a trip to Edmonton and were embarrassed by the Oilers, 6-0. He was a horrendous -4. He did finish the month pretty strong, however, with an assist in a 3-2 win over the Blackhawks, and was in on both goals in a 2-1 win over the Blues with a notch and a helper. In December, overall, he had 9 goals, 8 assists for 17 points, pretty much on par, as the Jets aren't looking that great. The new year began with a 5-game road trip, and it did not go well. He was pointless and had a -2 against the Hawks, pointless and a -3 against the Whalers. He did fare much better against the Bruins in a 5-4 loss with a goal and an assist. The Jets beat the sucky Sens at last 3-2. Selanne was a +1. He then had a goal and a 4-2 loss to the Habs, the defending Stanley Cup champions, as the Jets went 1-4-0 on this road trip. Mike Smith was soon fired as general manager around this time, which had people in Winnipeg rejoicing and celebrating in the streets for sure. Paddock took over the job. The Jets began a 4-game homestand facing the Buffalo Sabres, who were actually able to get the better of the Dominator, Dominic Hasek, their star breakout goalie. The Jets trailed 2-1 in the third. A power play marker scored by our hero tied the game with 5:45 to go. 2:16 later, he set up Emerson for a goal that would prove to be the game winner in a 3-2 win. Selanne was named for a star of the game. The Jets would lose the next 3 in their homestand, and he was a -4 in that stretch and didn't really do anything. Well, then came maybe a much-needed rest for the Jets. The All-Star break and the All-Star game was taking place on January 22nd, 1994 in New York at Madison Square Garden. Selanne, of course, represented his club for the Western Conference, and it was a thrilling outing, but the West lost 9-8, and our hero was pointless. He was back to business as the Jets took a trip to LA to take on the Kings. Our hero had a goal and a helper in a 4-4 tie. Then on January 26, 1994, the Jets took a trip to Anaheim to take on the Mighty Ducks. This would unexpectedly be our hero's last game of the season. His Achilles tendon was sliced inadvertently after crossing paths with Don McSween of the Ducks. It was hopeful it would only keep him out until late March, but it was worse than initially thought. The surgery required would, keep him out for the rest of the season. It broke the hearts of Jets fans everywhere. His momentum just derailed like that. And an injury like that to any athlete could change the trajectory of anyone's career. There was a lot of concern everywhere. At this point, the Jets were 17-28-6 as Selanne was out of action. In the remaining 33 games, they actually got worse, going 7-23-3, finishing with an abysmal record of 24-51-9 for 57 points, missing the playoffs and dead last in the Western Conference. This team was a complete mess. Not a good outlook either way. But let's look at the final totals for our hero this season. In the 51 games he played, Selanne had 25 goals, 29 assists for 54 points, still maintaining just above a point a game. But this Jets team had faltered terribly even before his injury, and it was clear Housley was missed. Still good numbers, however. He was having great chemistry with other members of the Olympic line, as Zhamnov set up Selanne for 12 goals, close to half of his total. The two collaborated for 6 assists, as the team who collaborated with 13 different people for setups. In total, he and Zhamnov teamed up one way or another for 26 goals. He also set up Keith Tkachuk 10 times, and that was his main receiver. He also had decent chemistry with Nelson Emerson, as well as Thomas Steen once again, and blue liners Boris Mironov and Teppo Numminen. Well, definitely not the storybook season as his rookie year was, but honestly, this Jets team was aimless and just completely directionless. Hopefully Paddock can fix it. As it seemed they were on a high trajectory thanks to our hero. While his numbers were solid in the games he played,
and he did play in his second straight NHL All-Star game. He had 2 hat tricks, but was also an awful -23. And I'll give a bit of a spoiler here. He would never hit that level again in his career. But speaking of his career, an Achilles injury can change the path of any given professional athlete, as I said. And can our hero come back from this? Our hero would be dealt another blow before the 1994-95 season began, but that was along with the entire league as well, as the infamous 1994 lockout was imposed. Selanne's surgery, however, was a success, but he wanted to stay in shape. So, like many other NHL players, he decided to go to Europe and rejoined his alma mater in Winnipeg, along with Jari Kurri, who also played for the club 15 years prior. Selanne at this point was an even bigger hero in his homeland. The young players were excited to have both he and Kurri there. In 20 games, he had 7 goals, 12 assists for 19 points for Winnipeg, adding to his career total there with his now 83 goals, 68 assists for 151 points in 117 games, and this would be his last tenure there. The lockout was announced as settled on January 11, 1995, and the players and teams will undergo a quick training camp and will play an abbreviated 48-game season, only facing teams from their conference in the regular season. There were still skeptics, however, about how Selanne's season would turn out. But the Jets themselves were an even bigger question mark. John Paddock now had double duty of being coach and a general manager. Former Red Wings All-Star Tim Shovelday was now one of the team's new goaltenders, and so was young Russian rookie by the name of Nikolai Khabibulin. And our hero was now wearing the infamous number 8 on his uniform. To open the season, Teemu and his boys went against Fleury, Nieuwendyk, and former teammate Phil Housley in the Calgary Flames. With 1:35 remaining, the Jets trailed 3-2 with the Olympic line struck. Shamrock got it to Selanne, who made a great setup for Tkachuk to tie it 3-3, and that's how it would stay. He then played really well against rookie prospect Paul Kariya and the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, with a goal and a helper and a +2, but they would lose 4-3. On January 23, 1995, the Jets hosted the Chicago Blackhawks, who were still a consistently strong team. Jeremy Roenick and Tony Amonte led the way up front. They also now have Bernie Nichols. But they have a dangerous defensive core consisting of Gary Suter, Steve Smith, and of course, Chris Chelios. And a net 2-time Vezina Trophy winner, Ed Belfour. Hawks midway through the first struck first, but just 1:21 later, Chris King gets the puck out to Selanne, who sees Steen. He scores, and the Jets, just like that, have tied it. But just 1:33 later, their momentum would be derailed. So Hawks took a 2-1 lead and would hold that all the way into intermission. But then in the second period, as Selanne scooped up a puck, he goes on goal with Tkachuk, makes a nice pass, and Keith scores. And the Jets have tied it as our hero has his second apple of the game. A little while later, on a power play, Jamnok gets his first goal of the year and gives the Jets a lead at 3-2. Then on another power play, Jamnok to Selanne, who sees Quintal back at the point, makes a nice pass to him, and he slaps it home. Selanne gets his third helper of the game, and what a huge night he is having. And this goal gives the Jets a significant 4-2 lead, which they still have after 40 minutes. In the third period, neither team was giving up much in the way of anything, and Jets goalie Tim Shovelday was playing brilliantly. The Hawks pulled Belfour for the extra attacker, and they also had a 6-on-4 power play advantage. But Quintal clears it out, and Selanne launches it down the ice for a shorthanded empty netter. The first shorthanded goal of his career, and the Jets led 5-2 with 1:30 to go. The Hawks would get one back with 7 seconds remaining, but it didn't matter. The Jets get their first win of the year, 5-3. And Selanne with an epic night once again. 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points, and a +3, and named the game's first star. The Jets fans who have supported him through his injury woes give him a well-deserved standing ovation. Our hero ended the month with the Jets on a 3-game California road trip. And they lost all 3 games. 4-0 to Larionov, Makarov, Irbe, and the Sharks. Selanne actually had 7 shots on goal, accounting for a quarter of their shots in that game. He did score a late goal in a comeback attempt against Anaheim, but they lose 3-2. He did score the opening goal in a 4-2 loss to Gretzky in a rough-looking Kings squad. The Jets are 1-4-1 to start the season, not at all good. Our hero has had 9 points in his first 6 games back. The Jets began February with back-to-back home games. Selanne played very well in a 5-4 overtime loss to the Blues with a goal and an assist, and then had an assist in a 3-3 tie with the Sharks, as the Jets are now about to embark on a 5-game road trip. They hit Western Canada as they're about to face some of their former division rivals. First is Calgary, and our hero played an absolute beauty. He scored a power play marker assisted by his line mates, while he helped Ulanov in on a goal in the third period, and then scored a goal to tie the game with 3:48 to go as the Jets would go on to win 5-4. He was named first star.
He then had 2 more goals, including a power play marker with 2:08 to play to tie the game, as they indeed fight to a 3-3 tie with the sad-looking Oilers team. But then they were destroyed by the defending Western Conference champs, the Canucks, 5-1. He's pointless and shotless. He also went pointless against the Blues, but the Jets came out with a 3-2 win. He then assisted on goals to Steven Zemnov in a 7-4 win over a disappointing-looking Stars team. The Jets looked sharp on this road swing, going 3-1-1. Our hero with 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points in 5 games. They returned home but suffered back-to-back losses against the Blues and Wings, where our hero was largely ineffective. The Jets were finally able to get the better of the Canucks, beating them 4-1 on the road. 2 helpers he notched in that one. Then was a goal and a helper in a 4-2 win over the Ducks. He then had an assist in a 5-2 loss to Toronto on the road. But he and the Jets were shut out 4-0 by the Stars to end the month. Selanne would miss his first game this year, a 6-1 throttling of the Red Wings, but he returned as the Jets hosted the Sharks, and he scored a goal as they triumphed 4-2. He then had 2 assists in a big 3-2 win over the Flames, both apples gifted to Zemnov. Then he followed that up with a goal and a helper in a 4-3 win over Dallas and was named second star of that game. A 3-game winning streak for the Jets. It would end, however, with a 4-2 loss to the Kings. Selanne with a helper in that one. He then had 2 assists in a 3-3 tie with the Canucks. But then in Calgary, they were down 8-4. Selanne with a notch and an apple each. A 6-game point streak. 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points, and a tremendous +8. His point streak, however, came to an end in a 3-2 loss to Chicago. He had an assist each in losses to Detroit and Toronto on the road. Was pointless in a tie in a game against the same Leafs in a 3-3 tie. But the Jets are now winless in 7. They're basically just seen as a one-line team. Selanne missed the next 2 games, both losses to the Sharks and Ducks, and the winless streak hit 9. They were 9, 18, and 5. 16 games to go. And in April, Selanne continued to perform well, and the Jets improved a bit as John Paddock did step down as head coach but stayed on as general manager, and Terry Simpson took over. And the deuces were wild for our hero with many twofers on the night. After going pointless in a tie against the Kings and a win over the Hawks, our hero had 2 goals and a 7-4 win over the sluggish Canucks at home. After going pointless in 3 games, he had a goal and a 5-1 win over the Leafs. Then he had 2 goals against the Oilers in a 6-5 loss. Then the very next game against the dominant Red Wings, he had 2 goals, both on the power play, and the latter being his 20th of the year. The Jets blew a 2-goal lead, had to settle for a 5-5 tie rather than a huge upset win. Then again goes pointless in 3 games, but they do get the upset over Detroit, and our hero has 2 assists in a big 4-3 win. Another 2-goal game, this time over the Oilers, 5-1. He's the first star in that one. 4 2-goal games, 1 2-helper game in total, 9 goals, 2 assists, 11 points in 14 games, and an even 0. The Jets went 7-5-2 in April, and we're at 16-23-7 with 2 games remaining. And the Jets are still in the playoff hunt with 2 games remaining. They are literally tied for 39 points with the 8th-seeded Sharks, but San Jose has more wins, and that puts them ahead. Each have 2 games left, but the Kings also have 39 points and also have 2 games left. And the Oilers aren't out yet either, 38 points. But our hero and his boys cannot come up in the clutch, and he was a terrible -3 in a 3-2 loss to the Blackhawks. The Jets were eliminated as the Sharks won that night, and are salt in the wound. They would lose to the Kings to end the year. Mind you, they too would also miss the playoffs. They beat the Jets 2-1 to end the season, Selanne assisting on the lone goal. The Jets finished 16-25-7 for 39 points, 10th in the Western Conference, an improvement from last year, but still it's not saying much. Misses the playoffs for a 2nd straight season for the first time since 1981. Either way, our hero showed, even after a severe injury, he still had a lot to offer. Let's just see how much that was. In 45 games, missing just 3, Teemu Selanne had 22 goals, 26 assists for 48 points. And despite the Jets' woes, the Olympic line was one of the most exciting and best to watch in the league that year. Once again, Zemnov and Tkachuk were Selanne's main men. He set up Zemnov 8 times, just under a third of the assists were to his center. Well, he collaborated for 8 assists together with him as well. In total, they worked together to produce 24 goals, as yes, indeed, Zemnov set up Selanne 8 times. And Zemnov was also named an All-Star that year. Selanne was fed by Tkachuk 10 times, but just shy of half of his goals. And the 2 worked together to produce 20 goals together. And this line combines scoring 74 total goals. Only second to the Flyers' legendary Legion of Doom line of Lindros, Leclerc, and Renberg. And indeed, Teemu Selanne got votes for the Lady Byng Trophy for excellence in sportsmanship for the 2nd time in his career, coming in 6th with 5 votes. Zemnov was actually a finalist, coming in 3rd. Hey, Selanne returned from injury looking very good, but of course some naysayers pointed out he's lacking the statistical dominance of his rookie year. But the fact is, look at the year Zhamnov had. That's the thing people overlook sometimes not going over people's careers, and Selanne was a major reason for that happening. Same with Tkachuk, but fans in Winnipeg were happy to see their hero back, and he was still one of their most beloved players, if not the most beloved player, as well they should be. He still played many epic outings and was a big reason for the Jets' surge at the end of the season despite missing the playoffs. He also finished a +1. His future still looks bright, but the future of hockey in Winnipeg itself is anything but. And as for our hero, there's even some speculation about what his future is going to be. Selanne was in high value, but the money the Jets organization had banked seemed to be a little too much to make the cost. There were even more rumors at the 1995 NHL draft that a deal was in the works to send Selanne to another team. Winnipeg Jets themselves, however, as I mentioned, were suffering the same fate that had just hit the Quebec Nordiques. Operating costs and salaries grew rapidly in the NHL, so Canadian teams who used to pay their players in Canadian money had to adhere to paying in American dollars to some players. And with inconsistent value of the Canadian dollar going every which way, this was bad for smaller market teams especially. There was nothing necessarily wrong with the Crowds, same deal in Quebec, who now had moved to Colorado and become the Avalanche. But this is the era of the influx of new arenas as well to increase potential revenue and profits, and the Winnipeg Arena was largely outdated by modern terms at this point. Even the major market Montreal Canadiens were mere months away from moving to a new luxurious arena, leaving behind the old Forum. The Bruins had just left Boston Garden. The Toronto Maple Leafs, another high-value club, was about to leave the Maple Leaf Gardens behind by the end of the decade. Jets owner Barry Schenkenroe was unable to receive government aid for a new arena. The danger of this team leaving was the circulation around Selanne's rookie year, as a matter of fact, as far back. But now it's truly a harsh reality. The team had been sold in May of 1995, just after the Jets season ended, mere days later. And there were plans to move the franchise to Phoenix. The outcry of fans everywhere, with a grassroots campaign doing everything they can in Winnipeg and elsewhere, Manitoba and other places, were very passionate and heartfelt, but unfortunately not effective enough. It was effective enough, however, to keep the team in the city one more year. Selanne was happy in Winnipeg and did not want to leave. He was expecting his first child and found a nice home there. But either way, the 1995-96 season will be played in Winnipeg. Let's see what our hero can do. The Jets started 3-3-2, and our hero was actually playing decently, but not overly consistent. He had a goal and 4 assists for 5 points and was a -4. The Jets opened the season on October 7, 1995 at home against the Stars and won 7-5. Selanne was pointless, but a +2. 2 days later, he assisted on Igor Korolev's game winner in a 4-3 win over the Ducks. He did not play well in the next 2 games in a mini Northeast road trip, losses to Messier, Leach, and the Rangers, and the defending Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils. He did have 2 assists against the high-powered defending West champion Red Wings in a 5-5 tie. After a win over Tampa, he finally got his first goal of the year and added an assist in a 3-3 tie with the Sharks. But then the Jets were crushed by the Ducks 6-2, Selanne a bad -3. On October 25, 1995, the Jets continued their West Coast road swing in San Jose, taking on the Sharks, who themselves were not off to a very good start, despite a couple playoff miracle wins in the last couple seasons. Despite bolstering such talents as Craig Janney up front, Sandy Sosa-Lynch on defense, and Artur Zerbe in net, they lost Soviet legend Sergei Makarov to retirement, and just a day before this game, traded Igor Larionov to Detroit for high goal-scoring forward Ray Shepard, who's making his debut. Yes, spoiler, that one will come back to bite them. It is game time, and the Jets are coming out flying, pardon the pun, and 4-13, Korolev begins to play. That leads to stick to Selanne, who sets up Darren Turcotte, and that opens the Jets scoring for this one. On a power play, the Jets quickly take control in the Shark zone. Tkachuk has it, puts it back for Manson, who sees his man, Teemu. He scores, and puts the Jets up 2-0, giving him his second point of the game. 1:39 later, Selanne sees an open Keith Tkachuk, who goes in on goal and scores 3-0 Jets and 3 points for our hero. And then as the period was winding down, Korolev sent Selanne in on goal. Even the awesome Urbe can't stop him, and another goal, his second of the game. His 4-point night, 4-0 Jets lead after 1. The scoring, however, did settle down after the first period, but the Jets led 5-0 after 2. The Sharks broke the shutter on a power play just past the midway point of the third. The Jets were on the move again as the game was winding down. Manson sends the puck to Selanne, who sees Tkachuk. He scores point number 5 for number 8. What a monster game for our hero. The Jets led 6-1. And mark it down, 2 goals, 3 assists, or 5 points. and a +4, and named first star of the game. Selanne showing that flash he showed in his rookie year. Kachuk named second star, the 4.9, while Igor Korolev, the Russian center, had 2 helpers and a +4, and he had been lined up with Selanne lately due to injuries to Zhamnov. And Teemu was on a roll after that game. He then added 2 assists in a 7-5 loss to Doug Waite, former teammate Freddie Olsen, a rebuilding Oilers squad. 7 points in 2 games. He then had a goal and a helper in a huge 4-1 win over Bure McGillney and the Canucks. He was named second star, 9 points in 3 games. That's 3 a game. And if that wasn't enough, scored the game-winning goal in a huge upset over the Detroit Red Wings 3-2 at home. In this 4-game stretch, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points, 2.5 points a game, and a massive +7. The Jets are also off to a pretty good start. After going pointless in a loss to Gilmore, Andrechuk, and the Leafs at home, they hosted Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Claude Lemieux, and the Colorado Avalanche, formerly, of course, the Quebec Nordiques. They would lose 5-2, but Selanne had an assist. They then traveled to Buffalo to take on a very disappointing Sabres squad and won the battle 4-3, Selanne with 2 helpers in that one. Then it was off to St. Louis to face Hull, Hawerchuk, McInnes, and the Blues. They would lose 3-2 despite Selanne scoring the opening goal of the game. Then a huge game against the Chicago Blackhawks at home. Selanne assisted on Kachuk's opening power play marker. Then Keith returned the favor, setting up our hero with his 7th of the year. But the Jets trailed 5-4 near the end of regulation, and with 15 seconds left, scored a huge goal that made the Winnipeg Arena blow the roof off the place, tying the game, leading to an overtime win and a goal scored by a rookie by the name of Shane Doan. He was named first star of the game with 2 goals and a helper for 3 points. That was an excellent 6-3 win over the Rangers, where he notched a goal and an assist. He then scored a shorthander for the lone goal and a 2-1 loss to Toronto, beginning a 3-game road trip. Then it was a trip to Boston to face Ray Bourque, Cam Neely, and a Bruins club who was not off to a very good start. Selanne scored the lone goal in the first period, then trailing 3-1 in the second, he started to get the Jets back in it with a beautiful setup to Eddie Olczyk. Then in the third period, he and Olczyk set up Kachuk for a goal to give them a 4-3 lead, but would ultimately lose 5-4, but a huge 3-point night for our hero. A 7-game point streak, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points, just 1 shy of 2 a game. Also a big +7. The Jets, however, went 3-4-0 on this stretch. While Selanne's point streak came to an end in a win against Ottawa, there was plenty more where this came from. To end the month, he had a goal and an assist in a 4-0 win over the Oilers. They then hosted the Leafs. In the first period, Selanne scored his 13th goal of the year, then set up Teppo Numminen for a goal. He and Numminen then set up Zhamnov on a power play marker and led 3-0. The Jets let the lead slip, and the game was tied, but they would ultimately go on to win 4-3. Our hero was named first star. The Jets had now won 3 in a row, but they would lose 4-1 to the Blues to end the month. Selanne with nothing in that one. To begin December, he had an assist each in the next 2 games, first in a tie with Chicago 2-2, and a 5-2 win over Calgary, who are not really having a good year. After going pointless and a -2 against LA in a loss, they would lose to the "oh no, we suck again" Sharks, where he had an assist, and also had an assist on a lone goal in a 6-1 loss to the Capitals. But on December 12, 1995, the Jets were hoping to snap their 3-game losing streak as they hosted the Montreal Canadiens, a team who was only 10 days removed from the storied and controversial final game for the franchise of star goaltender Patrick Roy. He has since been traded to Colorado, but the man they got in exchange for him, Jocelyn Thibault, is getting a second start. Up front, the Habs are loaded with talent. Mark Recchi, Pierre Turgeon, Vincent Damphus, all major all-stars, and a fellow countryman of our hero, Saku Koivu of Finland, in his rookie year. Selanne assisted on an Eddie Olczyk goal on a power play to open the scoring 5:40 in, and the Jets had a 2-0 lead in intermission. But the Habs got 3 goals by 7:37 in the second period and led 3-2, but Selanne made a beautiful pass to Olczyk to tie the game at 3-3. The Habs then retook the lead, but then Selanne made another great setup, this time to Kachuk, to give him his 3rd assist of the game, tie at 4-4. But by the 3rd, the Habs led 6-4, but Selanne set up Olczyk on a power play to cut the gap to 6-5, but that's how it would stay. Jets lose. But 4 assists in 1 game for Selanne. But the Jets have now lost 4 in a row, but still another epic performance for number 8. How will he top that? Well, funny you should ask, as the Jets are set to host the Edmonton Oilers on December 15, 1995. Yeah, the Oilers around this time were not very good at all, but they were really making an effort to rebuild a formidable team around young stars such as Jason Arnott and Doug Waite, the latter of whom is having a tremendous season. It didn't take long for the Jets to get the upper hand, Darren Turcotte scoring a goal 11 seconds into the game. But nearly 5.5 minutes later, Gillen gets it to Zhamnov, who sees his target, which is Teemu. He gets a Jets a 2-0 lead. First goal after a 7-game goal drought, oddly enough. The arena erupts in joy. The Jets led 2-1 after the first and then led 4-1 to start the second. And then after 2 Duron Quint goals 4 seconds apart, and just 58 seconds after that, Gillen over to Zhamnov again to Selanne. Second goal of the game, and the Jets led 5-1. Waite scored one for the Oilers not long after, but then not long after that, Dave Manson clears the puck down the ice, and Selanne is going in a goal. Joaquin Gage ought to be thinking, no, not this. And he's right. Oh, yeah. Selanne with a beautiful one for the Reels. Gets a natural hat trick, the first hat trick of the year for our hero, and his first in about 2 years. The Hats flood the ice, and chants of Teemu, Teemu fill the arena. The Jets are up 6-2. What a night. But in the third period, the Oilers have actually cut the gap to 6-4. But just 104 after that, Zhamnov coming in with Selanne. He scores his 4th goal of the game. All of them on even strength. The Raptors are shaking. The fans are loving this. Selanne having a remarkable night. His flair for excitement and his skill shining through once again like it did in his rookie year. The Jets lead 7-4. And they go on to win 9-4. And yes, indeed, Selanne is named the first star of the game to a rousing ovation from the Jets faithful. As him and Zhamnov are clicking again, the fans never lost their love for their hero, and their adoration was always there. But this is what it was like in his rookie year, and with the Jets soon to move, I think they appreciate their hero just a little bit more. But after that epic performance, the Jets would lose 3 in a row on the road. He had the lone goal in a loss against Chicago, 3-1, 2 assists in a 6-3 loss to a surprisingly good Tampa Bay Lightning club. Then humiliated at 6-1 at the hands of the red-hot Florida Panthers, scoring a lone goal on that one. Another 7-game point streak, though. 6 goals, 8 assists, 14 points, 2 points a game, and a very good +4. But the Jets go 1-6-0 on this stretch. What gives? I mean, granted, they have had injuries this season with both Olczyk and Zhamnov, but their defense really is not that consistent either. Selanne is doing all he can to keep his team in the playoff hunt. The streak, however, came to an end against the Blues on Festivus, but at least they broke their losing streak. What happened next? Nothing short of amazing, once again. Selanne scored 2 goals in a tough 4-3 loss to Chicago, but that gave him his 20th and 21st of the year. But he was also -3, but still staying consistent for his team, and it was his 4th multi-goal game of the season. They then returned home to face a struggling defending Cup champion Devils, and the Jets were down 2-0 after 2 periods, but assisting on an Ed Olczyk power play goal early in the 3rd period got the Jets back in it. They went down 3-1, but then Selanne scores to cut the gap to 3-2, and the comeback was onward and upward. He assisted on Tkachuk's empty netter to give them a big 5-3 win. A goal, 2 assists, 3 points, and first star honors. Then in the next 8 games, Selanne was the Apple delivery man to end 1995. He had an assist to Olczyk in a 5-3 loss to Boston on New Year's Eve. Then it began 1996. It was a 3-game road trip. 2 assists in a 5-4 win over LA, 1 each to Zhamnov and Quint. He then had 2 assists, 1 each to defenseman Norm McIver and rookie Shane Doan in a 5-4 loss to the lowly Dallas Stars, who now had Joe Nieuwendyk in tow. Selanne then assisted on Tkachuk's opening goal in a stunning 6-4 win in Detroit against the Wings. It was only Detroit's 2nd home loss all season at that time, and the Jets became the first team to actually beat them twice. He then assisted on Zhamnov's insurance marker in a 4-1 win over the Sharks at home, but then they drop a loss to Brendan Shanahan and the Wussy Whalers 3-2, even though Selanne assisted on the opening goal to Tkachuk. He assisted Tkachuk on another opening goal, but the Jets would lose 6-4 to the Ducks. Then he assisted on a lone goal for Teppo Numminen on a power play to 1-1 tie with the Caps. Not only does Selanne have 10 assists in 8 games, but he's also on a 10-game point streak. The streak continued as Selanne gets a goal in breaking a 1-1 tie, in Toronto, and the Jets beat the inconsistent Leafs 4-2 at the Gardens. Now it's time for the NHL All-Star break. And indeed, as the lone representative of the Jets, Teemu Selanne played in his 3rd straight NHL All-Star game. As remember, there was not a game during the lockout-shortened season. The game took place at the Fleet Center in Boston on January 20th, 1996. It was quite the thrilling affair. The Western Conference trailed 4-3 as time was winding down in the 3rd period. Selanne stole the puck near the neutral zone, skated in and blasted one past Dominik Hasek, tying the game at 4 with 3:38 left. However, the West would lose in the last minute, 5-4. Then it was back to business. Selanne continued his streak. He had a goal and an assist in a 6-5 loss to Blues. His goal was one of his big solo efforts and his 24th of the year, 147th of his career. Little did anyone know at the time, including Selanne himself, it would actually be his last as a member of the Jets. He assisted on a lone goal in a 4-1 loss to Montreal in what would be the Jets' last game at the old Montreal Forum. He then assisted on Tkachuk's 30th goal of the year in a 2-1 win over the Stars. Selanne played excellently on the road in Denver against the Colorado Avalanche with 3 assists and a 6-4 loss, the last being on an Alexei Zhamnov power play marker. It was his 306th and final point as a Winnipeg Jet. In a 15-game point streak, 5 goals, 18 assists for 23 points. He was a -9, but be that as it may, however, he was still producing for the Jets every which way he could. He was only 2 games shy of his career best in his rookie year. That was a huge 17-game point streak. Selanne did suit up at the Winnipeg Arena for his 231st career game on February 4th, 1996. The Jets would lose to the Canucks 4-2. Selanne was a -1 and had 5 shots on goal, and as you likely guessed, this is it for him in Winnipeg. Despite the rumors on again, off again for a while now, even dating back to the draft, when it came to shopping Selanne around for a trade, it still didn't soften the blow, or for that matter, make it any less of a shock what came next. On February 7, 1996, the Winnipeg Jets traded Teemu Selanne along with prospect center Mark Chouinard, still playing in juniors, and a 4th rounder for the 1996 draft, to the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. For Russian import defenseman Oleg Tverdovsky, the Ducks' first-round draft pick from 1995, right winger Chad Kilger, and a 3rd-round pick in the 96 draft. Selanne was informed of the trade during a team practice, where he then walked out of the arena without saying a word to anyone. He was devastated by the news, not wanting to lead the team where he was happy to be. His wife was actually just over a couple weeks away from giving birth to their son. Jets fans, needless to say, were furious, and so was the local media. This was going to be their last year in the city, and at the very least, they wanted their hero to finish it out and try to make one last big run. Rather than giving him an epic send-off along with the rest of his teammates, they are informed via radio and television that he is gone. Sports talk radio in the region was flooded with angry fans calling in. But regardless, there's nothing that can be done. Selanne's days with the Jets were finished. In his 4th and final season as a Winnipeg Jet, Teemu Selanne scored 24 goals, 48 assists for 72 points in 51 games. He was among the NHL scoring leaders at the time of the trade. And the Olympic line was on fire during this time frame. Alexei Zhamnov set up Selanne 5 times, tied with Tkachuk. Now when it came to Zhamnov, they also collaborated for 11 assists together and total teamed up for 22 goals one way or another. As for Tkachuk, Selanne set up his fellow winger, get this, 16 times. That means 1/3 of Selanne's assists went to Keith. Together they teamed up to produce 27 goals. Now, Zhamnov did have injury issues this year, and at times Selanne was also lined with veteran Eddie Olczyk. They too had tremendous chemistry and teamed up to produce almost 20 goals, but he too had injury problems. Selanne also clicked with Igor Korolev and defenseman Teppo Numminen. Selanne was channeling the energy from his rookie season, no doubt, and while the Jets were struggling, they were still improving over their last couple seasons, and inspired by their fans, were trying beyond their limitations as a whole, and Selanne was at the forefront of that. Their last hero was gone, but was on a tear this season, and on top of that finished a +3 and played in his 3rd straight and overall NHL All-Star game, scoring a goal. As NHL hockey in Winnipeg is looming towards the end, Selanne's career is just beginning. You know, it's hard to believe that Teemu Selanne's time in Winnipeg was so brief as he became one of the franchise's most iconic players in their history. That incredible rookie year will never be forgotten. There's even a VHS tape to commemorate it. I should know, I rented it a few times. Where he set 4 NHL records. Again, goals by a rookie, points by a rookie, first rookie to lead the league in goals. Most goals by a European player in a season, sharing that one with Alexander McGillney. Again, still having not been broken as of 2025. He won the Calder Trophy, of course, as the league's top rookie and was a first-team All-Star. He set team records, most goals in a season, most points in a season, and that record was shipped over to Phoenix as the franchise moved and stayed unbroken when the Coyotes ceased operations in 2024. So he holds those forever. He also won a Molson Cup for 3-star selection points on his team,
And he led the league in even strength goals that year as well. Top 10 in power play goals, hat tricks, offensive point shares, and of course, well, points. Since then, he has overcome a severe injury and worked his butt off to return to full form. And this season, he looked like he was indeed 120%. He also played in 3 All-Star games, playing quite well in 2 of them. In total, 147 goals, 159 assists for 306 points in 231 games. Amazing numbers. But the overall legacy he left behind as the Jets' last major superstar still lives on to this day. Memories of him and what he gave out there live fondly in the minds of the Jets faithful. But now a whole new chapter of his career is going to begin in California, and it will be nothing short of unforgettable. And that does it for part 2 of our look at the great Teemu Selanne. Stay tuned for part 3 as we cover his beginnings as a member of the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim and the huge impact that he'd start to make there. Please like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. So until the next one, I'll see ya!